Hello everyone, this is the third part of Video 3 Making Strategy Work, Word in School publication, and I hope you're going to enjoy what I'm going to say. I don't know which part I reached, but I'm going to try to go for it. Okay, now when it comes to planning execution, being interdependent, we say Randy Tobias had this simultaneous um, view of planning and doing. Now, in contrast, top management at stumbling Lawson Technologies never had a simultaneous view of planning execution. When it was spun off from AT&T, the communication software and data networking giant looked like a sure bet to succeed. It had the fabled Bell Labs in its fold. It was ready to hit the ground running and formulate winning competitive strategies. Even as the soaring technology market of the late 1990s helped Lucent and other companies, however, it couldn't entirely mask or eliminate Lucent problems. Now, one of the biggest problems was the management didn't anticipate critical execution obstacles as they were formulating strategy. Its parent, Mabel, had become bureaucratic and slow-moving, and Lucent took this culture with it when it was spun off. The culture didn't serve the company well in a highly competitive, rapidly changing telecom environment. Now, a problem that was not foreseen um, an unwieldy organizational structure too, was ignored during Lucent's early attempts at strategy development, and it soon became liability when it came to such matters as product development and time to market. More agile competitors such as Nortel beat Lucent to market, signaling problems with Lucent's ability to pull off its new development strategies. Now, one thing that was lacking at Lucent was top management having a simultaneous view of planning and doing. Planning phase ignored critical execution issues related to culture, structure, and people. The results of the neglect were extremely negative, only magnificent by the market downturns in 2000 and thereafter. Now, execution takes longer than formulation. The execution of strategy usually takes longer than the formulation of strategy. Now, whereas planning may take weeks or months, the implementation of strategy is usually played out over a much longer period of time. Now, the longer time frame can make it harder for managers to focus on and control the execution process as many things, some unforeseen, can materialize and challenge managers' attention. Steps taken to execute a strategy take place over time in many factors, including some unanticipated coming to play. Interest rates may change. Competitors don't believe the way they are supposed to. Competitors can be notoriously unfair at times, not playing by our rules. Customers' needs change, and key personnel leave the company. Now, the outcomes of the changes in strategy and execution methods cannot always be easily determined because of noise and uncontrolled events. Now, this obviously increases the difficulty of execution efforts. The longer time frame puts pressure on managers dealing with execution. Long-term needs must be translated into short-term objectives. Controls must be set up to provide feedback and keep management abreast of external shocks and changes. Now, the process of execution must be dynamic and adaptive, responding to and compensating for unanticipated events. Now, this presents a real challenge to managers and increases the difficulty of strategy execution. Now, when the Daimler Chrysler merger was consummated in 1998, many believed that the landmark deal would create the world's preeminent carmaker. Execution since has been extremely difficult, however, and the 6 years after the merger have been many new problems unfold. The company has faced one crisis after another, including two bouts of heavy losses in the Chrysler division, a series of losses in commercial vehicles, and huge problems with failed investments in an attempted turnaround, a debt-burdened Mitsubishi Motors. Now, serious cultures clashes also materialize between the top-down formal German culture versus the more informal and decentralized US company. Now, angry stakeholders at the 2004 meeting created and mirrored internal dissent and issued ultimatum to Jurgen Shrimp, blah blah, to turn things around fast. Now, the 6 years after the merger presented problems unforeseen at the time of the merger. Execution always takes time and places pressure on management for results. But the longer time needed for execution also increases the likelihood of additional unforeseen problems or challenges cropping up, which further increases the pressure on managers responsible for execution results. The process of execution is always difficult and sometimes quarrelsome, with problems only exacerbated by the longer time frame usually associated with execution. An execution is a process, not an action or a step. Now, a point just made is critical and should be repeated. Execution is a process. It is not the result of a single decision or action. It is the result of a series of integral decisions or actions over time. Now, this helps explain why sound execution confers competitive advantage. Firms will try to benchmark a successful execution of strategy. However, if execution involves a series of internally consistent integrated activity systems, or processes, imitation will be extremely difficult, if not impossible. Now, Southwest Airlines, for example, does many things differently than more large airlines. It has no baggage transfer, serves no meals issues, no boarding passes, uses one type of airplane, reducing training and maintenance costs, and incents fast turnaround at the gets. It has developed capabilities and created a host of activities to support its local strategy. Now, other airlines are hard pressed to copy it as they are already doing everything Southwest isn't. They are committed to different routines and methods. Now, copying Southwest execution activities in total would invoke difficult trade-offs, markedly different tasks, and major changes, which complicates the problem of developing and integrating new execution processes or activities. Now, this is not to say that competitors absolutely cannot copy Southwest. Indeed, other low-cost upstarts and traditional airlines are putting increasing competitive pressure on Southwest. Now, this is simply arguing that such imitation is extremely hard to do. Now, execution is a process that demands a great deal of attention to make it work, and it is not a single decision or action. Managers who seek a quick solution to execution problems will surely fail in attempts at making strategy work. Now, faster is not always better. Okay. Now, one might ask, is execution involves more people than strategy formulation does? In addition to being played out over longer periods of time, strategy implementation always involves more people than strategy formulation. Now, this presents additional problems. Communication down the organization or across different functions becomes a challenge. Making sure that incentives throughout the organization support strategy execution efforts becomes a necessity and potentially a problem linking strategic objectives with the day-to-day objectives and concerns of personnel at different organizational levels and locations becomes a legitimate but challenging task. The larger the number of people involved, the greater the challenge of effective strategy execution. Um, I once was involved in a strategic planning project with a well-known bank. Another project I was indirectly involved in had previously recommended a new program to increase the number of retail customers who used certain profitable products and services. The strategy was articulated and a plan of execution developed to educate key personnel and set goals consistent with the new thrust. Now, branch managers and others dealing with customers were brought in to cooperate for training and to create widespread enthusiasm for the program. After a few months, the data revealed that not much had changed. It clearly was business as usual, with no change in the outcomes that were being targeted by the new program. And the bank decided to do a brief survey to canvass um, customers and branch personnel in contact with customers to determine reactions to the program and see where modifications could be made. Now, the results were shocking, as you've probably guessed. Few people knew about the program. Some tellers and branch personnel did mention that they had heard about something new, but nothing different was introduced to their daily routines. A few said that the new program was probably just a rumor and nothing substantial had been there implemented. Now, others suggested that rumors were always circulating and they would never knew what was real and what was bogus. So, communication and follow through for the new program were obviously inadequate, but the bank admittedly faced a daunting task. It was a big bank. It had many employees at the branch level. Educating them and changing their behaviors was made extremely difficult by the bank's size. Decentralized branch operations ensured that problems were always popping up in the field, challenging employees' attention um, and making it difficult to introduce new ideas from corporate to a logic group of employees. Now, in this example, the number of people who needed to be involved in the implementation of a new program presented a major challenge to the bank management. One can easily imagine the communication problems in even larger geographical dispersed companies such as GM, IBM, Deutsche Post, GE, Exxon, Nestle, Citicorp, and then ABB. Now, the number of people involved added to the longer time frames generally associated with strategy execution clearly creates problems when trying to make strategy work. Additional challenges and obstacles to successful execution can be the issues previously noted as serious, potentially impeding execution, yet there are still other challenges and obstacles to the successful implementation of strategy. Now, these need to be identified and confronted if execution is to succeed. Now, to find out what problems managers routinely encounter in the execution of strategy, I developed two research projects to provide some answers. My goal was to learn about execution from those most qualified to give me the scoop managers actually dealing with strategy execution. I could have relied solely on my own consulting experiences. I felt, however, that a more widespread approach, surveys directed toward many practicing managers, would yield additional positive results and useful insights into execution issues. Now, there is a Wharton Gardner survey and Wharton Executive Education survey. But this video is over and we'll see you next time. Thank you for watching and following up.